Today we're going to talk about drinking. Should Christians drink or not? As Christians, one of the common subjects that come up in Christian groups are should you drink or not drink? Is it frowned upon? How much is too much? The question therein. So today I'm going to give you my opinion on that subject. Now, we've all heard the verses. People can throw out Bible verses about drunkenness. Be not drunk with wine, but be filled with the Holy Spirit. Woe to those who rise up early with wine or late into the evening with wine. Thieves, swindlers, drunkards will not inherit the kingdom of heaven. We've all heard these verses, and there's many of them, and it does talk about drunkenness, being drunk with wine or drunk with alcohol. It does talk about that being wrong, that it does separate us from God. And there's many things within that drunkenness, that it takes away your ability to think normally, and you do things, say things, act certain ways where you wouldn't normally do, because it does take that filter away from you. And we've all seen people not such great decision making when they are drunk. So there's a lot of bad things that can come out of that just in normal society. Just take Christianity aside. When you talk about driving drunk and having a wreck or killing a family, killing some innocent people because you were driving drunk and made a poor decision, or any decision that you made while you were drunk, or even harming yourself, take Christianity aside, probably not a great thing. So when you're in your small group, when you're around your Christian friends and you're talking about drinking, having a beer, having a glass of wine, going out to dinner, do you order? There's always that weird struggle of, we're at a sports bar, but I want to get a beer with my burger. Are they going to look at me weird? So here's my opinion on that. Yes, I think that the Bible clearly states that drunkenness is wrong. When you overindulge and you get to the point where you've lost your ability to function and think the way you would normally think if you were completely sober, I think that that's wrong and should be stayed away from. Now, a casual drink, drinking one or drinking two, or getting a little tipsy, or just a little knocking the edge off if you're going into something where you need to be a little more comfortable, so you drink something to get a little more comfortable. Okay, little gray line there. You could do that. That's coupled with, can you handle it? Can you stop? Is that going to open the door for you to keep going? Can you always and forever drink one or two as opposed to 4 or 8? Can you stop at the 1? And that's a question that you have to ask yourself, because if that little edge that you want to take off often leads to drunkenness and where you just keep going, then probably shouldn't do it at all. But if you can control it, I don't think God comes down and says, "Oh, you had a sip of beer on your tongue, smite thee." I really, in my opinion, don't think that. And many, many, many of my Christian friends will have 1 or 2 beers. They can do that. But I was in that when I didn't really drink at all in high school. Matt, I had 1 or 2 drinks through college, believe it or not. But when I got out of college and was in that single life and had guys that we were going out, I was kind of looking for my mate. I would have 1 or 2 mixed drinks to knock the edge off, to be a little more comfortable. Never been drunk in my life. Actually, I've never been drunk in my life. So I was a person who could do that, who could draw the line, who could have 1 or 2 and stop and just be comfortable in a situation, still be able to drive completely. If I got pulled over, it wouldn't be any problem at all, because I didn't have enough in my system, so I could handle that. But I did have a friend approach me with a very interesting question. He's like, if you know that could lead to something wrong, if you know that drinking can lead to other things and break down that filter that you've got, why would you even do it in the first place? And here's the way he framed it. He said, God calls us, Jesus calls us to be holy as he is holy, to walk the walk. Now, would Jesus have a casual beer? Probably not. And when it talks about Jesus turning water into wine, okay, that miracle, who says that the wine was fermented? Nobody knows if that wine at the wedding was fermented. It might have just been grape juice, because the Bible doesn't really clarify if that was fermented or not, and if it could get you drunk. And it doesn't even say that Jesus drank that wine. And any mention ever, if at all, that he does drink wine, who's to say that it's, fermented or not? So what my friend was saying is, be holy as I am holy, as Jesus says. You can control certain things. Now, there's sins that we are born with that are tougher than any other. Some people might struggle with lust, with anger, with gossip, with drugs or alcohol or anything like that. We all have a certain sin or two that's a little tougher than anything else. For me, alcohol is not one of those. I've got other sins that I battle with, but alcohol is not one of those. So my friend was saying, if you're trying to be holy as God is, as Jesus is holy, if you're trying to do that, why don't you narrow down your battles and really figure out your battles with your tougher sins, but the easier ones? Why would you even entertain that? Why would you do that at all? And it did make me stop and think, if I'm really in my walk, in my servanthood, in my life, if I'm storing treasures in heaven, which is a different subject altogether, storing treasures in heaven, because Jesus gets us into heaven, the Messiah gets us into heaven, but we have different levels of experience in heaven, and that's based upon the treasures that we've stored in heaven with our walks and our service and our gifts, and how we use the talents that God gives us. So if I'm doing that and I'm storing treasures in heaven, why would I try to pick these little sins that I don't really deal with and invite them into my life? Why wouldn't I just say, no, I don't struggle with that. Why would I even do that? So I hope that none of this was confusing to you, because I think drunkenness is wrong. I think 1 or 2 drinks of alcohol is not necessarily wrong if you can handle it. But I also thirdly think that if you can handle it and it's not a sin that you battle with, why even invite it into your life in the first place? Because when you drink 1 or 2, you might cause someone else to stumble. And God is not a fan of us leading other people to stumble. So if our 1 or 2 is completely in control, that new Christian, that new believer, that person who has a tough time with alcohol is going to see you, their Christian brother, maybe somebody who they look up to, drinking. They're not going to see you stop at 1 or 2. They're going to drink the 1 or 2, then go to 3, 4, 5, 6, and they're going to keep going, and they're not going to remember. All they're going to remember is that you drank and you opened the door for them and made it okay in their minds because you were with them. So be careful in your decisions that you don't cause others to stumble. I know there's a ton of videos on YouTube about Christians and drinking and drunkenness. I'm just throwing some ideas for you to think about, to challenge you a little bit. So I hope I challenged you today. I'm not telling you what to do, what you should do. I'm not saying what you've done so far is wrong or right, because I don't even know personally what you've done. I'm just giving you seeds of thought to think about. And I hope that you wrote these down. I hope that you study on them. I hope that you pray about it and figure out where alcohol plays a role in your life. And are you okay with it? Are you causing other people to stumble? Can you draw the line and stop when you need to stop? So I hope I've given you some food for thought today. If you like stuff like this, please hit the subscribe button down below. I really appreciate it. I love the people who subscribe to this channel. I love pouring into you. I love the comments. I love it when you hit my little thumbs up. It just really validates what I'm doing. So if you could take a second to give me some feedback, even if it's constructive criticism, just let me know how to get better at what I do. I pray that I've touched you in some way today and given you some nugget of something to think about. Thanks for stopping by. Tell your friends about this channel. We'll see you next time.